Hello, Raptors Nation. Sean Davis here for the Raptors Nation. You know, for everything Raptors. We're back. We're 12 days away from the NBA draft. It's going to be a bunch of great content here on the channel between now and then. That's not what we're here for today, though. Luca joining me, Luca Rosano, my co-host. The Raptors have a new head coach. They finally, after easily the longest process, I think they were the first team to fire their head coach
Yeah.
and then the last to hire a new one. So, Luca, first, welcome back on, and then just what's your initial reaction to the Darko Rajakovic hire?
Yeah, welcome to Toronto, Darko Rajakovic. And if I sound a little off, I am battling a cold. So, yeah, let's just get through this. I mean, my initial reaction, Sean, I like this. I do like it a lot. It's a different direction for the Toronto Raptors. They did not go in house with their coaching option here. They go for a new voice, Serbian native, a guy who has been coaching for a very long time. I mean, you go back to when he was 16 years old, when he was coaching in Serbia. This is a guy who's been around the block with some pretty good coaching trees, and most recently had a stint with the Memphis Grizzlies as one of the top assistants there. And we know that the Grizzlies have done an amazing job developing good young talent over the years, guys like JJJ, Bane, Ja. So, yeah, I really like this move for the Raptors. A lot of people are quick to say, oh, he's not a name. You know, he's unproven as a head coach. A lot of people don't even know who this guy is, but I like what he brings to the table and some of the things that he brings, Sean. He's more of a development coach. That's what he's known for. So coming to a team like the Toronto Raptors that should be getting the most out of their young players moving forward, guys like Scotty Barnes, Precious, even guys like Delano Banton, I think that's a really good situation that Rajakovic is going to be in here. And yeah, all I'll say is this: Scotty Barnes year 3, look out. I think he'll definitely get the most out of a guy like him. And it's said that he's a very respected coach. He's a very, personable guy, connects with the player as well. So that's really, really good because obviously there was a disconnect with Nick Nurse and this current squad. So that's why one of the big reasons why I think the Raptors underachieved last season. And really, Sean, I do think this means that the Raptors are headed for a rebuild. And that's something that we've both been advocating for. And we think that's the best move on the chessboard moving forward. And a guy like Rajakovic, given the type of young talent he's helped develop over the years, I think he's the right coach for that situation, if that's in fact what the Raptors do. And I think, yeah, this is going to signal a very big opportunity for him and the young players on this team. And there was a line here from Woj that is interesting, keeping the door open to kind of both sides. And Woj said the Raptors wanted a coach whom they believed could coach a contending team should the franchise stay on its current path of veterans, or a real rebuilding roster, pardon me, should they eventually transform the roster to younger players and draft as assets sources said. So I think that versatility is very important here. But I'd love to hear your take on this. I do think, like I said, the best move here with a guy like Rajakovic, Raptors should rebuild and really prioritize building around Scotty Barnes. And I think Rajakovic can be that guy that brings the Raptors back to their glory days.
Yeah, absolutely. Really quickly, like you said, Rajakovic arrived from Serbia in 2012 as a G League head coach with the Oklahoma City Thunder. He was in OKC up until 2019 before making a quick stop in Phoenix. And again, spent the last couple of years with the Memphis Grizzlies, working his way up to being the top assistant for Taylor Jenkins over there in Memphis. Really quick, a couple of other coaches. This is per Woj, by the way. There were given serious consideration in the process was Kenny Atkinson from the Golden State Warriors, one of their top assistants, and Charles Lee from the Milwaukee Bucks, their top assistant in Milwaukee, or was their top assistant. I guess my initial reaction, and there's a couple of points that so far I'm going to dig more into some research. We'll have a more full length pod next week. We just want to get something out for you guys. But I think this hire hits a couple of keynotes for me. One, they got a hire before the draft, which was so important to me because I thought it would be incredibly, I don't know if stupid's the right word, but it'll just be like team malpractice if you go into the draft, you don't have a head coach, you're drafting a dude that it might not fit your head coach's scheme, right? So at the end of the day, it still is the front office and your scouting department's decision. But I do think when we talk about roster build, the head coach does need to be in that process because, I mean, if the Raptors have a poor season, it's almost always, this goes for any team. If you have a poor season, it's almost always going to get put on the head coach. So the head coach should be involved in roster decisions to a certain degree. That's my opinion, at least. Number 2, you went with the outside the box name. And what I mean by that is you're not going for the Doc Rivers, Steve Nash, which me and Luca were both a little worried about at one point in time. Even a Mike Budenholzer, who in retrospect is a little bit more proven than those two guys, especially in recent years. But like, that's just such a like generic name. Like, no disrespect to Bud, right? But you went with the outside the box name that is, again, reports it heavy on the development side. You have the 13th pick. There's talks about you potentially trading that Mr. 43 to Portland for pick number 3 if the board falls the right way, meaning like a Scoot Henderson idiotically is available at pick 3. That's neither here nor there. We'll talk about that another time. But I think the Raptors are made the right decision here from a process standpoint. And kind of end here, and I guess I can kick it back to you, Luca. We've said this in recent pods. If the Raptors handle this offseason right, give it 2 years, 3 at the absolute max, and the Raptors are right back where they want to be. Hit the soft rebuild button this year, which is, again, like, pray. If you're a Raptors fan, I'm praying that Scoot falls to 3 if I'm a Raptors fan, because that means it's more and more likely that Portland trades the pick. You can get 3. You can get Scoot, pair Scoot with Scotty Barnes. You had a tweet about that the other day, which I loved. Then you can build around. You don't even have to be bad necessarily, but you can build around Scoot Henderson, Scotty Barnes. You can keep OG, or you can just go trade him for all the picks if you want to. You have a couple other guys. So I think the Raptors very quickly can turn things around. And I can say this, that I think next year will be a lot more enjoyable as a Raptors fan, as a Raptors analyst. But yeah, I think you really prioritize this year's draft. Next year's draft is not going to be as good as this one's. That's what all the draft analysts are saying. That's what some of the work I've done. It's not going to be as big as this one. Try to get 3. You keep 13. The Raptors could be loaded in 2 years. And you have one of the best, if not the best, player development coaches out there that you just hired in Darko Rajakovic. So I like the hire a ton. It makes a ton of sense. And I'm excited to see where this new iteration of the Raptors go.
And the thing is, I mean, I agree with everything you just said. We still don't even know the direction in which the Raptors are going to go in. There was a report a couple weeks ago that the Raptors are still undecided themselves. But the reason why I am leaning more towards thinking the Raptors are going to go the rebuild route is because, like, if the Raptors still had intentions of going for it and running it back, I would think maybe they would go after more of a name coach, a guy who has had experience in the playoffs. And
Bud, that's where it makes more sense.
That's where it makes more sense. But because you're literally going to who you just called, the best player development coach who was still available on the board, that leads me to think, okay, the Raptors are going to finally prioritize their younger talent. And that was one of the main flags of Nick Nurse, that he wasn't playing the younger guys enough and giving them true opportunities to prove themselves. So bringing in a guy like Rajakovic, who is known of getting the most out of the young guys and developing them, just, again, look at the situation he was in Memphis. That leads me to think, okay, the Raptors, they finally identify where they're at, and they are embracing, hopefully, some younger talent. And if that means, letting losing a Fred VanVleet, trying to deal him in a sign and trade, trying to get a haul for a Siakam or OG, like, so be it. You might have to make those decisions if that's going to put this team in the best position. It requires many good young assets moving forward for Rajakovic to deal with. So yeah, there's not too many negative things I gotta really, there's no negative things I gotta say about this. And yeah, like, for people saying it's not a big name, we really went from Nick Nurse to Rajakovic, 2 totally different situations, right? Like, before we had a championship contending team, Kawhi Leonard was there, and now this team, we kind of see them as like, what, a 1 round like a 2nd round ceiling, if at that. So I think the Raptors going outside of the box here, bringing in a guy with a good development track record, I really like this, and I like that in his Twitter bio. He
Oh,
has
he has a Twitter?
yeah, he's got a Twitter, and he's got espresso connoisseur as in his headline. So I really like that. If he drinks espresso, he's my coach.
Yeah, there we go. This time of year, we're surviving off of espresso and all that good stuff. So, Raptors Nation, again, we have a bunch of fun draft content. We're gonna have a more full length pod next week, talking a little bit more about the hire, the direction the Raptors should go, what that could look like. So stay in the know. Really quick, do me a big favor, guys. Hit that like button. Super free, super easy. Takes 2 seconds. Puts the video out there to a wider audience here on YouTube. Let's the algorithm know that you like this content. And as always, subscribe right here to the Raptors Age YouTube channel. Ring that post notification bell as well. Sean Davis here and Luca Rosano. Stay safe.